So the module for creating profiles or loading profiles is Easy Media. So go ahead and double click on that. And by default, if you select that wrench in the lower left corner, you'll see in there that you have an option to export the files to that directory when they're created. So I've went ahead and turned that on, but when you first load Caldera, that's not going to be selected. Okay? So we can go ahead and say OK here. Now, this Easy Media module allows us to either calibrate monitors or calibrate printers. You know, so I don't know if you've ever calibrated a monitor before, but if you want to make sure that the color that you're viewing is the same as the color that's on the printer, you're going to want to calibrate both. But in our particular case, we're just going to be loading profiles for the printer, so we'll go ahead and select the printer. It's actually selectable if you click on it there. Yep. And then we'll say next. Now here you can see our printer, where our printer is loaded. So if we're running multiple printers on this version of Caldera, then we'll select the appropriate one. We only have one for the Vortex 4200, so we'll just go with that one. So here's where we have our media profiles that we've loaded. And you can see that there's a name column for the name that we've assigned to it, and then there's also a project column which lets you know how many projects have been completed in there. Now, when you create an ICC profile or a media profile, you're going to create one for every combination of rasterization and speed on the printer. So there's 3 rasterizations available to you in Caldera. There is high, standard, and draft. And those names correspond to high is 800 by 800 rasterization, standard is 400 by 400, and draft is 200 by 200. So the higher the rasterization, the bigger the print file you're going to create, also the better resolution that you're going to get out of it. So those are our 3 rasterizations. Within those 3 rasterizations, we have different speeds available to us for the machine. So there is the actual description for it is, I think, quality. And you have standard quality, which correlates to 12 inches per second. I'm sorry, standard is 6 inches per second at 1600 by 1600 dpi. And then there's draft quality, which is 12 inches per second at 1600 by 800 dpi. Now, when you raster, for each of those rasterizations, that is like your standard and draft rasterizations, you have both speeds available to you. But in high quality rasterization, you only have standard speed, or 6 inches per second, available. So you end up making a total of 5 profiles for every single media that you create, because each of those combinations requires its own profile. So you can see here, we've previously loaded a fast ink matte profile and a fast ink media gloss BOP film. What we haven't loaded is the matte BOP film. So let's go ahead and select that, and then we'll go next. Actually, let me take you one step back, I'm sorry. If we wanted to create a new one here, we could go to New. If we wanted to have, and this is where you would enter in the name of the media. Okay, we've already done this in this case. So let's select the matte as we have, and we'll go next. Here you can say New, and we're going to create our different combinations of mode, which is going to be with the drop-down arrow there. We're always going to select CMYK because this is a CMYK printer. Resolution, let's start out with high. And then quality, only standard is available in high, so that's why you don't see draft there. And then we'll say OK. Now it wants to enter the password. So the password is, yep. And OK. And then let's say New again. So we're going to create all 5 of them right here. CMYK. We'll go to standard next. And then standard. Okay. Now draft and standard. Okay. And you again. Okay, so right now you can see that my status is empty because there's nothing in those profiles. Okay, so we'll continue with this wizard and we'll go next. And so it says that there's nothing selected for your linearization or ICC profile, so we'll go next again. Here's where we have an option to either create a linearization profile from a print that we produce, or we can load it or create it from scratch. So typically, if I don't have one to load, I'll run through the wizard, otherwise I'll select load import. So in this case, we're going to select load import, and then we're going to browse. And so I've previously copied the profiles that we're going to load into a public, and then there's a folder underneath public called profiles, and then there's the folder for the profile names. So if we go to home, I think, yep, and then go up a level from home, that's that folder with the up arrow.
Oh.
Yep. And then we can come back to the public folder, which is the same one that's on this desktop, profiles, and then that code file, open up that one, double click, yep, or double click on it, there you go. And so we're also up here, it gives us an indication of what we're working with and what we want to load. Okay, so we want to do the BOP or the matte BOP film. So go ahead and select that, and then CMYK, and then remember that draft. So we're going to start with 200 by 200, and then draft under 200 by 200. And then by default it only shows the file with the correct format, which is the PPC file. So we can load that. It's down here now, so we can say next. And then it gives us the curve that was loaded from that file for the linearization. We can say next. And then it asks us if we want to print a test pattern out to confirm that it did the correct linearization curve. We're not interested in that, so we can say no, and next again. So this displays what the ink limit was set at for for the ink limits that were established when we originally did it. So that PPC file not only loads your linearization information, but it also loads the ink limit information as well. So we can go to the next, and we're not interested in the test pattern for the ink limit. Now here's where we're going to load the ICC profile. So down there we're going to select load and import, and again we're going to go browse. Now by default it leaves you in the same folder that you were previously at for the PPC file, which that folder contains, we're in the right place to load the ICC file. They're both in the same folder. And if you're kind of confused, you can look up here that you're 200 by 200 in draft, which corresponds to draft. Okay. And so we can say load, yep, next. And no test pattern. Okay, so standardization. So standardization is really the final, where it lets you look at what standards you've achieved. With this version of Caldera, we don't have the licensing to be able to perform standardization, so we're going to skip it. But if you wanted to see what standards your media achieved, there are 3 different ISO standards and 3 different FOGRA standards, which I think FOGRA is like a European standard and ISO is like North American standards. So you can qualify your media for being to achieving like a proofing standard or a CMYK simulation standard, so on and so forth. For us, we're not going to worry about this because we don't have the capability, so we're just going to say next. And now we can say save project. So it saves everything that we've loaded, and we can go back to the main menu, and now we can load the next profile for